Thank you so much for being here. I am with my dear friend, Luba Nixon, one of my dearest friends on the planet. And I have been wanting to talk to you about mom guilt and entrepreneurship. And this episode of The Freak Show specifically is titled Mom Guilt is Real, but So is Your Purpose, Navigating Motherhood and Entrepreneurship. And you're the perfect person to talk to about this because you have 4 kids. You have a thriving and successful business. You also homeschool your kids. You make homemade bread. You make homemade everything. We geek out over that together. And I want to talk to you about how you navigate being an incredible mother, because I know you are, and being an incredible entrepreneur, because I know you are that too.
Well, thank you for
You're
having me.
welcome.
I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited for you to be here too. So can I just launch in with some questions?
Yes, go ahead.
All
Please
right.
do.
First one. What does mom guilt mean to you? And when did you first feel it as a business owner?
You know, to be honest, I think I felt it before I even had kids. I think even in pregnancy, because I've been in business for 13 years now.
Yeah, that's a significant
So
amount
I've
of time.
had different types of businesses, and I'm it's just in a different phase of business. And so now I think mom guilt has come with so much shame and something that I've had to work through, but shame came before mom guilt. And I just kind of activated differently when the kids came. And I think now mom guilt is an important part of what you need to have. And I think it's always getting a bad rap, but I think it's not a bad thing.
Okay, go into that, please.
So I think mom guilt is your radar that calls you into alignment, that you need to listen to, that you need to pay attention to and say, okay, but am I really doing something that I should be ashamed of, that I should feel bad about? Am I really damaging the relationship with my kids? And really look at it and be open to yourself, because sometimes the answer is yes, this is not the right thing to do. You need to step back and you need to give your kids more time or presence, because sometimes
presence is such a huge thing.
you know, like I work from home and I'm with them 24/7 technically, but my presence isn't always fully with them.
Yeah.
Because I can
There's
lock
no
myself
way, yeah.
outside so I can take a phone call for work. And they're screaming on the other side of the door and I just keep my composure. So I think you have to look at it and say like, okay, am I aligned? Am I fully living to what I need to do? And sometimes the answer is yes, you're good. They are completely fine. This is just, you know, a season where they're super needy. And then there are seasons where you need to be honest and you need to fix it. And I think we also need to listen to that.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. My Roman's love language is time spent. And so earlier this year, you know, when I was in my first trimester of pregnancy, here, I'll move that a little closer for you so it's more comfortable. When I was in my first trimester of pregnancy, I was so sick and so energy drained that, you know, I would spend time with him physically, but mentally, I was just trying to make it through the day.
Yeah.
And he picked up on that so acutely. And there were a couple of weeks where he was like so snotty to me and so crabby. And I felt so bad. But then at the same time, I was like, I have got to give myself some grace here. I'm making a human. I'm working on this giant project. I'm trying to be the best mom I can possibly be right now. But there's just not a lot of juice. And so I think being honest with ourselves is so, so important, like you just said, and using mom guilt as a gauge. Like, am I in alignment here or not? And then also extending that grace to ourselves if we are in a season of things not being aligned and that being kind of out of our control, you know?
Yeah. And I think mom guilt usually gets a bad rap. Usually it's, and it's allowed. I think that's the other thing we do as moms. We allow it.
Yeah.
And I think now, because I've lived with it, with shame, with that comes with it, where, I just feel so bad. Well, if you feel so bad, then do something about it.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be faster at taking action than letting that feeling sit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm saying this after I've been a mom for 8.5 years. He was born. He's eight and a half now. And so I've had a lot of practice and a lot of life with this mom guilt and with shame that I've had to work through. And I think that's probably the best thing I've done for my kids is work through that guilt, that shame. I'm still working through it because some of it was passed on in a way that wasn't even my intention to receive it. And I think
well, and you're one of 11 kids.
Yes.
You're the oldest, so you kind of grew up being a mom too in some ways. You're very responsible. I'm the oldest, not of 11, but of 3. And I think especially as women, and when you are the eldest daughter, there is, whether your parents mean to or not, my parents had no ill intentions. I was just always overly responsible. So it was easy to hand stuff to me. It was easy for me to kind of become that pseudo parent.
Yeah.
And I think that also comes into motherhood. And I relate to you when you said I felt mom guilt before my baby was even born. Because I felt that in my first pregnancy. I was like, how am I going to be able to work and fulfill my dreams and become a mother? And I've talked about this on the podcast before. I had so much fear around becoming a mother because of that, because I want to be 2 places at once and I want to be excellent in all areas. And I do believe you can be excellent as a business owner and as a mother, but it also requires us to give ourselves some grace and understand that there are seasons to things. So
and maybe not at the same time because you're going through these waves, and I like to look at it as the ocean because so much of our life in general is like the wave of the ocean. You have to ride the wave, and sometimes it comes with the moon. You probably notice, and if you have children, you know what it's like on a
full moon.
Oh, it's a full moon. Fine. We're going feral here. Everyone's going crazy. There's they're just forget underwear and clothes. Everyone's running naked and screaming.
That's exactly what
Won't
happened.
go to sleep. It's just, full moon. Okay, that makes sense. But it's connected to the way that the water in the body is affected by the moon. And so it
changes the frequency.
All the frequencies change now. But I think life has that where you have your seasons where you're slowing down and you're much more excellent as a mom. And you have a season where you're much more excellent as a business owner. And I think that is okay too. I think you can't expect yourself to have all of those at the same time.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. And I think too, it also depends on where our child is in development. I remember when Donovan was in between the end of 2 years old and 3 years old, and you were like, you just wait, because Roman is like 4 or 5 months younger. And you were so right. That transition from the end of 2 to 3, their brains are developing so rapidly. They don't have control over their emotions. It's so hard. And so I think all you can do is love your child consistently and unconditionally. And again, throw in a lot of grace. Okay, I want to go to my next question for you, which is, have you ever considered walking away from your work to be more present as a mom? And if so, what helped you stay the course?
I still do every day.
Yeah.
I am ready to quit every day. If everyone in my business quits, I'm like, oh, thank God. And at one point I had employees quit, several, and I've had seasons where, because I have employees, I think it's a very different perspective than the business is me and it depends on me. So I've had it where the business is me and it depends on me. So if I stop working, I just stop getting money. So it's technically fine and I can slow down. But this business specifically is with employees and they're expecting a paycheck. They have children, they have families, they have car payments, they have rent to pay. And so it's a different kind of pressure. And so do I want to walk away? Sometimes I honestly prayed that God would just take it away so I could. But it's not been his answer right now. And so how I stay the course is just reminding myself that I look back to see how it was all ordained for me to come specifically in the business that I am in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're going to be staying in your business or working a job, you need to be super connected to your purpose in order to be sustained and to be somewhat sane at the end and not lose your spark, your desire for life. You need to find a way to recharge. And that's what I have to do. I have to recharge and I have to go back to my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose has to be stronger than the desire to quit.
And how do you, so two-part question. How do you recharge and what do you feel like your purpose is in this season?
Oh, good questions. So I'm an introvert
Same.
and I recharge by being alone. I love hiking and walking and just being out in nature. And I get to do that so rarely. It's unbelievable. It's so rare because my time alone is so rare now. So I have to be grounding myself with writing instead. I journal every day and I write down kind of part of my purpose in bits and pieces is part of my journaling practice that I've had for now probably 6 or 7 years. And even in the times that I can't get time alone to recharge, that's what probably keeps me the most grounded and connected. And oftentimes I forget my purpose. But I think...
Well, you're so in it. You have a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, a
Yeah.
6-year-old, and an 8-year-old.
Yeah, and it's easy to feel like you're disconnected from your purpose when you're living it. And it's also easy to forget that there's parts of you have multiple purposes sometimes, even though they're connected. So mine, really, I do believe my purpose is to really work with women and help women. And
I know that that's part of your purpose. As somebody who's known you now for 3.5 years or so, I know that's part of your purpose.
Yes, and specifically, I believe that God has a purpose for me to speak to women on how to live with insecurity. And not just, get rid of it, because I don't think it's possible. I think we're just in a world where it's not possible.
Yeah.
But to know how to live with insecurity and still be confident and be in your most beautiful, flourishing life. And part of that is being a mom. And so I'm also living that, being able to teach my kids on how to be connected with who they are and also give them this beautiful life and teach them. And so, but when you're in the trenches, sometimes it's hard to see like that you're actually living it.
And I think for the women listening, and if there are any men listening too, to normalize this is so important. Like I look at you and, you're making homemade bread and you're homeschooling your kids and you've got this thriving business. And I'm like, Luba is just super mom, super woman. And you are. But at the same time, there are vulnerabilities there and you're still human and you still get stressed. And it's not like your life is without all kinds of challenges. Anybody walking this earth is going to be challenged, but you do such a good job of being so honest. And I feel like when you are really overwhelmed, you also reach out too, And I love that about you because I feel like I always want to be that support system for you, but I also feel like you're that support system for me too. If I need a little, hey, I'm feeling really overwhelmed or whatever. So, okay, I want to go into another area of mom guilt and entrepreneurship, which is kind of navigating the tension between the two, right? What are some of the ways you've learned to cope with the guilt, not silence it, not pretend it's gone, but coexist with it without letting it drive?
That's a great question. I think I'm not even realizing, how I'm doing it. I think I've just focused on the now and just today. I think over the last...
that's a really good tip too.
So I'm on the end of a very intense, very difficult 3-year season, really 2-year season, but the first year was a really hard, and now this is the end of the third year of like a hard season. And so both in business, and I also went through a pregnancy that was a really rough pregnancy for me. And now my baby's 13 months.
And she's so gorgeous.
She's
I
13
love
months.
her
I
so
can't.
much.
She's really funny.
Of course
She's got this funny side. So I'm coming out of this very difficult season. And I remember going back to like some of the hardest days where I am super pregnant, sleeping on the couch, letting kids watch TV just so I can get through the day energetically, trying to feed them when they're refusing to eat for all the food that I cook them.
They're so picky.
They're so picky. And so through that season, I developed this practice without really intentionally developing, but it's really, I'm just focusing on today. And if I'm not doing a good job today, then you know what, tomorrow I'm going to do 1% better. And so I don't know if you read the book Atomic Habits. He talks about 1%. And so to me, I adapted that. And to me, it's really helped because then it's not overwhelming. I'm not going to be, super mom tomorrow. I can be crappy today.
Yeah.
But tomorrow I'm going to be not so crappy. The next day I'm going to be
a little better.
Decent. The next day I'm going to be, I'm good today. I'm a good mom today. The next day I'm going to be very good mom today. The next day, great mom. The next day, extraordinary. The next day, exceptional. And so I think I've allowed myself to give these like baby steps. It was
that
really
takes so much pressure
hard
off.
day. Yeah. I'm like, everything sucks. So some days I literally say, you know what, guys, nothing is working today. We're having so many meltdowns before Mommy Dragon comes out. How about we just do a reset?
Mommy Dragon.
Yeah. My kids are really into dragons right now.
Yeah, that's
and
perfect.
So I'm like, I'm feeling the dragon come out. So then I'm like, we need a reset. And so allowing myself just to do 1% better today than I did yesterday really helped me to be more present and focus on just what do I have to get done today? Just fix the next best move. And that practice came out of a very difficult season where I was extremely stressed, very overwhelmed. And I just had to do, okay, what is my next best move?
And you did that consistently. And
daily.
I saw you through that season, and it was extremely hard. And I feel your energy now lightening. Yeah. Like you're just not carrying so much. But it's hard when you've got really little kids in a business and you're being pulled in a million directions. And, your husband is super successful and he's been traveling for work. And then you're home with 4 babies. It's just... like, it's a lot. It's a day-by-day thing. Okay, next question. Do you ever feel like society gives moms less permission to be ambitious than dads? And how do you handle that double standard?
Someone once changed my mind about how I used to answer that question.
Oh.
I think that we, women, give ourselves a double standard. And I think we allow that through comparison because men don't compare themselves as much as I think women compare themselves to each other.
I don't think they do either.
I mean, they do compare, but it's very like basic. It's very surface level. Like women do it on like this deep level of comparison where it's like, girl, just give yourself some room. And she's trying her best. And I think, if we could be in a world where how can you win and I win, and how can we celebrate each other's wins instead of I'm going to win so you're going to lose just so I could win, and it's not okay so anyway, I think
our women's group is the opposite of that.
It is, but
we are cheering each other on.
I've seen so much in the society in general, this like double standard. And I think we as women, we accept that as the thought. And I think I've moved beyond accepting it as the thought. I think you just need to have a standard for yourself and stop carrying and holding to what anyone else could have done. And I think when you simplify it and you just focus on, well, how can I just be good at being a mom first, then move on to the next thing? You're no longer stacking things on top of yourself.
Well, and I love that throughout this podcast so far, you keep taking the responsibility back. It's our mindset. It's our decision. It's our ability to take action and take action quickly, because that gives us the power back, rather than saying, well, I feel mom guilt and I can't do anything about it, or I have these thoughts running through my head and I don't know how to switch it. We have so much power. And when we take that power back, even though it can be scary at first and it can feel like a lot, that gives us so much autonomy to be the women that we feel we need to be. And I've talked to you about this before. I have struggled with, do I become a stay-at-home mom because I love my son so much, but I also know I'm a better mom when I have gone and done the creative work that fills my soul.
Yeah.
And then I'm so much more present and engaged with him.
Yeah.
So it gives me that ability. And I feel like I've dealt with so much guilt around that. I've talked to my husband about it, and my husband is like, just let that go. That is not, like, don't worry about it. But when you love something that much, and you've got it times 4, I'm about to have it times 2, but when you love something that much, it's natural to feel torn between two worlds. But I think if we can ease up and take a step back and see the aerial view of, I am such a better mom and human being when I am full and I have taken time for myself, even if it's just a few minutes of journaling or like a good shower. I say that I'm going through the car wash. Like a really good shower. Like I exfoliate, I do the moisturizer, all the things. I come out a different person. But those moments make me such a better mom. And I think also in society, and I know growing up watching my mom felt like she could not work and be a really present and engaged mom. And that was based off of a false belief from her mom. And so it goes back generations.
It absolutely does.
Yeah. And I think you and I, in some ways, and in our friendship too, and in talking all of this out, we're breaking some of those generational curses that 100%. Have been accidentally handed down to us. And it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean that the mom guilt doesn't surface sometimes. But I love the idea of using it as a gauge and something that could be helpful rather than something that induces shame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So now let's talk a little bit about mindset and frequency. How has motherhood shifted your beliefs around worth, work, or what success really looks like?
I think it taught me how to ask better questions.
Ooh, okay. That's a really good takeaway.
I think you have to maximize your time so well. When you see and hear your child repeat what you say, there's nothing that will make you change your behavior and your words faster.
Yeah.
And so yours maybe is still a little bit little, but when they start coming out,
he repeats so many phrases.
It gets worse. It gets worse because the mannerisms come back. Then now my kids eat, and then they say stuff. Oh, I don't eat leftovers. Guess who doesn't eat leftovers in our family?
Your husband.
He hates leftovers. Now my 8-year-old is saying, I don't eat the same meat 2 days in a row. Meaning you can't have chicken yesterday and chicken today, even if it's cooked different ways. You can't. Guess who else does that I've also cooked for my entire marriage, because he needs fish 2 times a week. He doesn't like to have chicken one day, chicken the next day, or steak one day, steak the next day. He has to have a different meat because he gets bored or whatever the reason is. because he's an adult and he can have a choice. But that's
Oh my god.
so when he starts verbalizing it at dinner and my husband's looking at me and I'm like, well,
I'm going to wring your neck.
I've told you this. You can't say stuff like that around them, because he would.
Yeah.
And then that's what I have to deal with. So now guess who's eating leftovers?
The mama.
And no, my husband also.
Oh, good.
Because he's like, see, I'm eating leftovers. You see, Rolo, I'm eating leftovers. Guess who's eating this too? Sometimes, like, I don't love it, but we got to eat it because we have a fridge full of leftovers.
Yes. And also, I don't want to make a homemade meal every single night after a hard day. It's so nice to be able to batch cook a little bit.
Do.
And
I wish I could, yeah.
I know. And sometimes I do too. But at the same time, if I can like make double one night and then have leftovers the next night, I love it. So, but going back to that question, like, what does success look like to you right now? If you were to go through a week on a Friday evening, how do you say this week was successful because X, Y, and Z? Is it something that you feel? Is it something that you've accomplished? Is it a combination of both?
It's a combination of both.
Yeah.
But it takes me back to the time that, again, journaling, I wrote out, this was probably 14, 15 years ago. I did it with a friend and I wrote out in a kind of like a spider web. You basically do a spider web. And in the middle of the page, blank page, you write on woman, and that's me. And not just woman, the perfect woman. And then you write out a little bubble to the side that goes friend, a little bubble that says mother, daughter, career. And then from that bubble, you write in what kind of mother you are. I am present. I'm loving. I give hugs. I cook dinner every night. I make cookies from scratch. And so, from work, I'm a business owner. I make this much money. I have freedom to do this. Traveling, creative. Like you write all these adjectives and all these descriptive words
for each of the roles you play.
For each of the roles. And there's usually 4. So it's career, motherhood, wife, friendship, and then
daughter.
And then the kind of person you are.
Okay.
So because I think it's important to also have like, okay, what kind of human am I? The qualities you have. And so I go back to that because I recently found it.
Oh, I love this.
And I've done an update, I think every 5 years of what it is. And it's very close and very similar to what my perfect woman is then and today. And I have to look back and say, this week was successful. And it has nothing to do with how difficult it was. It has to do with, did I have time to spend with my kids? Did I have the ability and the option to homeschool them? To take like a week ago, I took them to the zoo. We went out to eat. I didn't have to think about, okay, how much is this going to cost and count my pennies, which is one of the things that I've worked on. Like I have enough for our needs. I can go to a restaurant, take them and feed 4 children who don't eat half the stuff that they order.
I know how that goes.
And then being able to drive a car that I've just really loved and enjoyed, and being in this gratitude for, I have my time with them. I'm watching them grow. Maybe this is TMI, but like having my toddler sit there and, I'm the one wiping his butt and not someone else on a toilet. Like that little connection while they still let me help them, and being able to put my babies to bed at night, being able to see them, all of them, for dinner. And at the same time, as a businesswoman, it means I have money that comes in every day that I'm able to also watch my bank account and pay certain things and be able to buy the things that I need to buy for the family, for myself. And so I am living it now.
Yeah. So success is a combination of feeling present with your children, but also seeing, even if it's just tiny increments, progress in your business.
Yes.
Next question. And I think we should go into the practical and tactical.
Let's do it.
Yes. What are some boundaries or practices that you have experienced as being game changers for you in managing your time and energy?
Doing one thing at a time. I no longer believe in multitasking.
Oh,
Multitasking is a scam.
Multitasking is a
I don't
scam.
know who invented it.
Yeah.
Or
If you want
started
to
the
feel
word.
scatterbrained, multitask.
It's not a thing. You have to multitask as a mom because sometimes you have to, especially with a newborn and having to breastfeed and doing all the things while breastfeeding. But it's a scam. So when I can, I just do one thing at a time.
Yeah. I love that advice.
And it is very hard.
I know. It's so much
because
hard.
you want to do everything.
But I find that when I focus on just one thing at a time, I don't feel that deep anxiety.
Yes.
I don't feel pulled in a million directions. I don't feel scattered. Okay. How do you explain your work to your kids, and how do you hope they remember this season of your life?
I take them to work with me.
I love it.
They ask me all the time if they can work for my company.
I love it.
They know my team. Once they asked, because sometimes I bring them with me, and this is the joy of homeschooling. Is that, well, we gotta go deal with this right now, and I just take them with me in the car, and I gotta go deal. And then they ask me, "Oh, is this your favorite worker?" Because I have employees. They're like, "Oh, is she your favorite one?" They ask me to work for my business, and sometimes I'll let them shred some papers and give them $5. So they're like,
That's
"Yes,
such a
I'm
good
gonna
way to
work."
Yeah,
But
to
they
incorporate them.
also they do see things and they remember, and I think I'm already seeing it. I hope that
They're going to be so proud of you and what you've accomplished.
I hope that they remember it with good memories this time of our life, because I know it won't always be like that. Sometime in the future, I won't have to go on site as much, and I won't have to be on the phone as much because I'll delegate that role to someone else. But right now, I hope they see the work ethic, and I hope, and I know they are seeing it already, because they're always talking about, I'm going to start this business. I got a 3D printer. I'm going to start making toys and selling them. And so they're already really good salespeople.
That's incredible. I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay. If you are talking to another mompreneur and she came to you and said, I feel like I'm failing at being a mom and failing at being an entrepreneur, what would you say to her?
I would say pick one, fix it, then go to the next.
Okay.
I think when you feel like you're failing at both, you are, because that feeling is probably correct. You're probably drawn to something that's not enough. And so you need to first find your grounding. So just get stuff cleared out of your space. So I think for me, when I'm overwhelmed and I'm failing at both, it's usually a mess in the house.
I know how
a
that
mess
feels.
in the office. My purse. So you clear your purse of stuff, old receipts, things. You just start throwing stuff out that's not serving you, that doesn't, belong where it is right now. Usually in that case, I go like hardcore and organize my house. My kitchen is organized. My entry points of the house, we usually come through the garage. So that gets organized. My front door gets organized and cleared. So no junk and stuff. My kitchen gets organized, and then
organize your physical space and then the mental space.
But I go hardcore. I get my personal life in order, because that to me is the priority. So when I'm like, okay, business is falling apart, things are crashing, I go hardcore. I just forget everything, forget homeschool, forget whatever else, everything can wait. I just get everything organized. All the laundry is done. And then when things and spaces are clear, there are no baskets, things on the floor waiting for me to make decisions, then I find that 50% of my problems go away, because that clutter of unfinished business personally carries into the business.
Oh, it's, such a reflection.
And then I clean the kitchen. When the kitchen is clear, I get into you need to start doing something creative. Then you need to cook, you need to eat. I think that as moms, we always forget to eat and then forget to drink the water. And only then, when you feel like your space is okay, you've taken care of the essentials for your family and your home and yourself, because the home really is, you're doing that for yourself. Then you can start looking at and saying, okay, I need a babysitter. I need to walk away. when the kids are asleep, I need to take time, sit down and make decisions. And then you need to make decisions very quickly.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like them.
Mm-hmm. My stepdad says, I make a decision and then I don't look back.
Yes.
Like you just deal with the consequences and you
Yes.
keep moving forward. And I love that. Okay. As we wrap up today's podcast, I'm so grateful that you took this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one last question for you, which is how can someone shift their frequency? Well, let's make this more specific. As a mother who runs a business and has children, what is the fastest way to shift your frequency for the better in those tough moments?
Well, listen to your app, of course.
Oh, thank you. That was a nice plug.
But I do. I actually do.
Oh,
I do it.
Thank you.
And so I think you need to have triggers. So like triggers have a negative meaning, but also like to flip it and have a positive trigger. So like you use mom guilt redefined as this is your radar on where you need to improve. Same with triggers. You need to trigger your mind and your body into a different state. And I think music does that, which is where you have your frequency. And I like the frequency, just the music part, because
and we're adding more just frequency for you.
Yay!
And 1 minute frequencies because I know you're busy.
I think you need those where it kind of jolts your body into action. And I think you need something that's powerful. And so I have over the years have had songs that kind of like snap me back into it. There's one called Conqueror, and when the high note goes with the conqueror part, just like, yes, I'm a conqueror. We're going to go finish this business deal and we're going to go finish the stuff that we got to do today. And so you need something that changes your physical state. And sometimes it's going for a walk. But I think when you just don't overcomplicate it, you just change your frequency by dance party with your kids, if you're home with the kids, or tune in and listen to something that triggers you into a different state physically. So movement and sound.
And we'll link the Freq app. But before we go, I want you to plug your business and where can people connect with you? Because I know they're going to want to.
So I hang out on Instagram probably the most. And on Instagram, it's at Lyubov Nixon.
And I'm going to link that in the show notes too. So
my
people can
business
click it.
is residential home cleaning. So here local to Phoenix. And it's called Clean Lemon.
And it's all clean cleaning supplies, which is a huge differentiator.
Non-toxic products is our specialty. And I have a very good team. So it's very high quality service. And that's, I think, something that's super important to me, and it's rare to find. And so it's at Clean Lemon Company on Instagram.
And I will link all of that in the show notes so that people can connect with you and hire you easily. Thank you so much, my beautiful friend.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to The Freq Show with Sam Thurmond and me, Jacqueline Steele Thurmond. We would love to connect with you via our website, beckonliving.com, and on social media.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Beck and Living, and you can join our email list to receive uplifting messages, podcast and business updates, and discounts on high-frequency products just for our freaky community.
Cheers to high-frequency living.